So, a very warm welcome to Holly Hustler. Holly is someone that I have followed for so long. And Holly, can I just start off by saying one thing to you?
Go for it.
Massive girl crush moment because you are probably one of the most elegant people I have ever met. You really exude elegance level 10. And so always when I see you, I think that about you. And I thought, I've not had a chance to say that to her. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to save it for the podcast because it's a nice way to just get everybody to feel really at ease. They're going to love listening to you speak because you've had such an interesting story. And I thought that would be a really cool place for us to start.
That's such a sweet compliment. Thank you. I'm like proper mum vibes at the moment because I'm going into my third trimester next weekend. So don't, because anything's making me cry.
Let it come out. People need it.
I know, it's a release. Oh. Sorry, did you ask me a question?
Babe, I was just like, take us back to the beginning because you've got actually
okay.
such a fascinating story and it'll give
Yeah.
people a little bit of an understanding as to how you got to this place of using sound to help heal people, which is so fascinating and I want to know everything. But give us a little intro to you.
Okay, gosh, I never know, quite how far back to go with these stories, but let's see, where do I want to go? So I guess, it's been an unconventional path. I've never really sort of had a straightforward, normal job or path, as it were, even though I did push myself in that direction briefly, but it just didn't work out. The universe did not want me to go down that route. So I guess I'll start by saying I think I've always had music in my bones. I've come from a really musical family. It's always been part of me, from lining up Barbie dolls along the wall and singing to them into a hairbrush when I was 6, to being in a girl band in later years after university. So I did go down the academic route, started with an English degree, started a PGCE and realised, I was not meant to be a teacher of that sort, in a secondary school. It wasn't my heart's calling. So I quit that, went travelling for a little bit. And this is quite a fun part to the story, and I've told it so many times, but it makes me excited every time. So I remember just being at that, when you're sort of in your early 20s and you think, oh God, what am I doing with my life? Everyone else has got it sorted out. I'm the only one that doesn't have their shit together. Like, what am I doing? And I was actually supposed to be going off travelling again to do a ski season with my then boyfriend. All the tickets paid for to New Zealand, flights, visas sorted. That was in a week ahead. And I was just having this sort of, early 20s crisis, as you do. And I just remember having this sort of moment to dream big. And I was sitting upstairs in my mum and dad's house in my old bedroom. And I was at my computer and I just thought to myself, if I could do anything, like in the whole world, just go for it, what would it be? And I just typed in girl band auditions, London. I thought, let's just see what comes up, shall we? And the first thing was an advert on one of those, Star Now, Google sites, whatever they are. And it said something like, we're looking for the last member of an up-and-coming girl band, London-based, auditions close tomorrow, must be blonde, preferably 5'5", preferably 19 to 24. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, exactly. Like, oh my God. And I wasn't really a whole meant to be kind of person at that time. I wasn't on any kind of sort of, spiritual path, as it were. But I really felt and kind of knew that I was going to get that part in the girl band. I just sort of, it all was in front of me before my eyes. And I thought, how am I going to tell my boyfriend that I'm in this girl band now? He was not happy about me going for the auditions, but dream job. And long story short, there I went to the auditions, got on so well with the girls, and they were all my bridesmaids actually a few years ago, and just got the part in this amazing girl band, and it was so much fun, and we did such cool things, and we were together for 3 years, and we toured with Westlife, which are a famous Irish band. We played the O2 Arena. Just amazing life, and I was so lucky to have that absolute dream, which was a huge dream of mine. And but saying all of that, and you can only say these things looking back, can't you? I had a great time, but being in a girl band, it really lends itself to quite a hardcore partying lifestyle, and I found myself in that world, meeting new friends, everything all sparkling, staying up and not sleeping every single weekend. And many times just kind of looking at myself in the mirror, not actually, knowing who I was at all. Everything felt quite externally focused. I remember my manager saying right at the beginning, "Oh, just remember you are a product." And I thought, oh, that's a nice way to start. So, you know, everything was, this is what you're going to sing, this is how you're going to sing, this is what you're going to wear, this is how you're going to dance. And there's not much room for creativity, you know, to be your true self. It's like, you know, you are this person and this is how you're going to be. So, yeah, that no sort of self-inquiry or soul expression, which is what I guess I was sort of craving, but without realising. So, but anyway, didn't know all of this at the time. I just sort of lost myself in the party lifestyle. And after 3 years, it just very organically came to an end. We just kind of realised that it wasn't going to, you know, be successful in the conventional sense, which was fine because I felt like I got everything I wanted from it. I had the best time. It just, I think mentally probably wasn't really serving me anymore, actually, towards the end. So we decided to call it a day. But then kind of everything came crashing down. You know, I lost my dream job, which meant I lost my income, which meant I was standing in a Tesco's in London where I was living at the time with £3.40 in my bank account, wondering how I was going to have dinner that night. And, you know, still partying a lot, not knowing, you know, what I was doing with my life. I was also with a boyfriend at the time, a different one to the one before. I was with this other guy, and we had a real, you know, soulmate relationship, but I realised that wasn't actually supporting me in the long run as well. So I had to put an end to that. Had to move back home with my parents, and just, you know, I went to this real period of darkness, really. And, you know, even though I'm very lucky to be able to have a home to, you know, move back to and have that support, mentally I wasn't in a good way. And, you know, you don't know at the time that you're probably supposed to be there for a reason, but I did feel like something was just putting me right back at square one, so that I had to really kind of face a lot of demons, actually, because I'd always been in a relationship, you know, since the age of 15. And for the first time in my life, it was just me. And, you know, I didn't have anything else going on. And so I was really forced to kind of look at myself, who I was, and actually realise I had little love for myself, little self-worth, no belief in myself, no self-confidence. And as a result, I wasn't kind of, you know, manifesting the opportunities in my life that I really wanted. Obviously, I had the girl band, but I was trying to make it as like a solo artist after that, and doors were getting shut in my face. And I was just, faced with this, like, oh my God, I actually don't even think I'm worthy of this kind of success. And so at that point, I found yoga. And, you know, you find yoga, don't you, at these times in your life when you feel like everything's kind of falling apart. And I was so grateful to find that practice. And at first, I just thought it was, you know, a physical practice. We all start, you know, going into it wanting to improve our flexibility or get that yoga bod or whatever it is. And I know you're a dancer as well. I am. So I was, you know, at the front, old leg behind the head, thinking I'm great at this. And then just, you know, realising that's not what yoga's about at all. And then found myself, you know, on the floor at the end in Shavasana, just crying and realising that I was, you know, getting to know myself on a much deeper level. And yeah, really coming back to myself breath by breath. And God, what a beautiful practice, and a bit of a lifesaver for me. So once I started, you know, yoga, meditation, I really just decided to change my life and put a stop to the partying, let go of some friends, just really started to kind of rebuild myself in many ways. And after a while, without making the story really long, I practiced yoga for a while, was feeling so much better day by day in myself. And I decided to do a teacher training quite early on in my practice. I know a lot of people would probably disagree with that, but I just felt like I wanted to share this amazing practice that had helped me. You know, the best thing I got from it was it helped me to really like learn to love myself again. And that's such a gift, you know. So I wanted that for other people. And it was that kind of internal self-inquiry, you know, soul connection that I'd really been craving, that I wanted everyone to experience. So I ended up becoming a teacher and started a little business. I moved back to London. Everything was kind of starting to flow again. And then at some point down the line, I saw a poster for sound healing. And this is where sound healing comes in. So I had also parked music, and sort of at the same time, everything was falling apart. And that was another heartbreaking moment for me, because I thought, you know, I'm obviously not meant for this world. I'm obviously rubbish at singing, and I'm a failure. No one wants me, so I'm going to just turn my back on music, even though that was crushing. I thought it's time to do something else. So so I saw this poster in Yoga Camden in London, and it was with a beautiful soul called Carly Grace. I'd never met her before, but she was all in white, and she had these beautiful crystal bowls on this poster, and that was what drew me in, just the colours, the crystals, so girly. I thought, oh, I've got to be around these beautiful beings. And the fact that it was sound and music as well, I just felt this soul calling back to whatever it was. And I just found myself in this beautiful studio one night, candles everywhere, people lying down, the blankets on, the eye pillows on, who doesn't love that? And not only was the experience so beautiful, you just feel these waves of vibrations just washing over you and through you, they go deep, and you can feel that something's happening, even though you can't explain what it is. So the experience itself was incredible. And, I felt like it just very quickly lifted away any sort of feelings of doubts and fears and insecurities, and really just brought me to this state of peace and calm, which, is so beautiful. But it was actually the next day, I always share this, that I felt this really overwhelming sense of just clarity and like everything's okay and you're exactly where you're meant to be. And it did feel like this sort of, cloud of, the stuff that we carry on to, negative thoughts and, oh, I'm not good enough for that, or I'm struggling with this. It's like all of that not important stuff just went, not true stuff just went. And I was just left with kind of, the truth of who I felt like I was, like love and peace. And I thought, oh my God, I have to bring this into my classes, this sound healing malarkey, whatever it is, because I thought it's the bowls that have done this, and I tested it again, the same thing happened. It still does to this day. So I was still broke at the time, but somehow I made it work. I whacked a training and a crystal bowl onto my credit card, and somehow found myself in another room with loads of crystal bowls and doing my first training. And now maybe it's nearly 7 years later, now I'm leading my own trainings. I'm getting to share this absolute beautiful magic with the world, and feeling like I'm finally reunited with sound and music, but in a way that feels so aligned with who I really am and what the impact that I want to make in this world. So in a nutshell.
Amazing. And actually that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on the show, because I've watched your journey unfold related to sound, and I've always been like, yes, come on girl, like do this is so what the world needs. And I was like, I wonder if Holly has any cool things that she can share as to how it works, how it helps people. I'm not saying, guys, if it's not your jam, this is no pressure, but I don't know if there's maybe a bit of curiosity there. What could help people get curious about maybe some of the struggles that they're facing and how it could work and help them? And I suppose one of the big questions that I had prepared to ask you is there any little sciencey things behind how sound healing works? And I can't wait to hear you share more about this.
And I have to share. I said before we started, I'm grateful to you, because it has made me sit and think about how to share, the science, because that can be a bit of a word that people sort of, well, for me especially, switches off to. I'm definitely more of a kind of feel it and believe it kind of person, but there's obviously a huge place for science. So this is the way that I like to explain sound healing to people who are new to it. So I always start by saying sound healing is this beautiful blend between science and magic. There is so much that still can't be explained, and I hope is never explained, because for me that is such a beautiful part of what sound healing is, that mystery.
And sorry to interrupt you, Holly, but I think that's part of science as well, is staying in the mystery, because you're always asking, this is what people don't understand about science, is you're always asking the question, what don't we know and how can we find out? Yeah. And that's what I think. A lot of people are like, oh, it's all about knowing and facts. And I'm like, no, it's about looking for the unknown and trying to uncover. So I'm so glad you said that.
Oh, I love that. That's such a nice perspective. Maybe science and magic are the same thing, but just different languages, and
100%.
That's something I can get on board with.
Yes.
So let's leave the school science behind and jump onto this kind of science. So let's talk about Einstein. He actually says in a quote, everything in life is vibration. So, if he says that everything's in vibration, I'm inclined to believe him. He's a very clever guy. He says that everything is vibration. So I think this is a good place to start. So we are living in a universe that is made up of vibrational waves of energy, essentially. Quantum physics has proven this now. We know that we live in a vibrational universe. And you might be saying to me, well, I'm looking at, I'm looking at the background behind you. I'm looking at my computer. I can't see these like wobbling waves of energy. But everything, if you sort of put a big microscope against, let's take, the human being as an example, against the skin, you would see that we are made up of hundreds of thousands of vibrating units of energy, which are called atoms. Everything in the universe is made up of these units of energy called atoms. So getting a little bit sciencey, atoms in very simple terms, they have the nucleus, so the bit in the middle, and then they have the electrons which spin around the outside of the nucleus, and that essentially creates this pulse, this pulsing effect. And because everything is atoms, they knock into each other. And then this knocking effect creates this wave. So in between the knocking atoms is this wave of energy. So everything essentially is made up of these waves of energy. And they'll be vibrating, some slower, some faster, depending on how fast the electrons are spinning around the atoms. Some argue that everything is sound. Humans can only hear a certain, we have a certain hearing range. So if you imagine a sound wave going up and down like this, a frequency, which you'll hear a lot of the time in the sound healing world, is the amount of times that a wave of energy goes up and down per second. So to keep it really simple, if a wave of energy is going up and down once per second, one, that's 1 hertz. So it's measured in hertz. If it's doing that 100 times per second, that's 100 hertz. So humans can hear between 20 hertz, which is like the lowest note on a piano, if you can imagine that, all the way up to about 20,000 hertz. So that's a sound wave doing that 20,000 times per second. So that's our human hearing range. But there are sounds that exist outside of that as well. We know that because dogs can hear double. They can hear, 45,000 hertz.
Wow.
Dolphins, whales, 180 something thousand hertz.
Goodness.
So, we know that there are a lot more sounds that exist outside of the human hearing range. And also, if we come to right at the beginning of time, most cultures, religions, beliefs are that the world was created, the universe was created through sound. So, yoga, Hinduism, it's believed that Lord Brahma chanted the whole universe into being through the single tone Om. And then the Bible believes it was the word, the word created the universe, the word of God. Science believes it was the Big Bang. So, most people believe that it was some kind of sound that brought the whole universe into existence, which suggests that everything is sound, creation is sound. It's weaved through us as well. So coming back to the human body, because that's kind of the most tangible example, we are made up of multiple different frequencies. It's not like, I'm Holly and I'm vibrating at 8 hertz. It's, we are made up of lots of different frequencies. And our natural state of being is actually balance, harmony, peace. That's where our body is always trying to resonate with, to come back to those frequencies that resonate with that. Just like the earth, it always comes back to balance. But there's so much in life that's just knocking us out of tune, out of alignment with our natural vibrating frequencies. This is where I like to use an analogy for the less sciencey people. I love this analogy. So if you think of the orchestra, everyone knows an orchestra. You've got all the different components, the keys, the percussion, the strings, etc. And you would never sort of turn up to a musical theatre production or a gig or anywhere where the orchestra don't come together and they first of all tune their instruments. They do the work to make sure everything's sounding harmonious. So then if you imagine we are an orchestra, not just a single musical instrument, but us as an orchestra. So we've got all of our systems, we've got our organs, we've got even our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions. It's all energy. Some we can see, some we can't. Everything that makes up who we are. There's so many parts of us that are just not in tune, and we don't do much to tune ourselves back to playing this beautiful symphony, which is what we would be hearing if we could hear ourselves, vibrating, and we were in alignment with our natural state of being. We'd be humming like our best theme tune, our favourite song in the world. But in reality, it's probably sounding like some bag of cats being swung against a wall, because there's just, there's always something that's off key, a lot probably. And this is things like stress, childhood trauma, emotional abuse, all sorts of things. Noise pollution, just sitting on the London Underground and you get that screeching, even things like that can knock us and our natural rhythms just out of balance. So we really need things to bring us back into alignment with, with these natural frequencies so that we are feeling our best selves. But we're not taught this stuff in school, right? We just carry about our lives, doing what we do at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So this is where sound healing comes in. I like to see the beautiful crystal bowls as, tuning instruments that tune us back into alignment with balance, harmony, etc. So another sciencey bit, this is sympathetic resonance is the scientific term. So the bowls that I use, and lots of people use different instruments, but I use crystal bowls. You can see them behind me. There they are, my little beauties. So they are, they're from the earth. Crystals are from the earth. They're natural. They're pure. When you play them, the frequencies that come out of them are the purest love, peace, nature. Nature is all of those things. So when they're coming out, and I don't have to tell you the science, you can lie down and feel it for yourself, like I did. I have done a million times, but I'll share it anyway. So when I'm playing the bowls, these beautiful, perfect, healthy frequencies are coming out of the bowls, and they are making their way into the human body, and they are basically working to tune and shift what is just out of balance and off center back into alignment with harmony in nature again. And it's called sympathetic resonance, which is in very simple terms when one vibrating object, i.e. crystal singing bowl, causes another nearby vibrating object, i.e. us, to shift into alignment with it. So it's pulling us, and it's not like it's, I'm going to fix every single part that's out of tune. This is where the magic comes in. They know what they're doing, and through experience, they always give you what you need, and you might not know what that is. But, I've had a lot of people with physical pain say, oh my God, when I was receiving that sound healing, it went straight to my physical pain, to the injury, and I could feel the vibrations moving around my knee or my hip, whatever it was. And, sometimes it's like tingling, sometimes it's a bit of discomfort, but you just got to trust, like they know what they're doing somehow. Multiple different things can happen. They just have this way of just tweaking, tuning, giving us what we need on every level, not just the physical, but it goes to right deep into the cells. It works on the emotional, the mental, the spiritual level of us as well. So I hope I've explained enough there for you.
Oh, you have done such a sterling job, and this is exactly what I was looking for when I was thinking, I've got to bring Holly onto the podcast, and I really want to ask her about like the inner workings of this, because I'm very fascinated by it, and I would love to do a training in it. I've said to you, I think in the past, I really want to come on your training and learn more. But I'm even more enticed now. I mean, the thought that our earth creates a crystal, first of all, can we just take a moment to... like my friends for my 40th birthday gave me this huge crystal called Celest. How sweet is that?
Oh, yes,
and
beautiful.
I looked at it and I was like, how on earth did our planet create this thing?
I know,
it's just fascinating. But what's even more beautiful is when you were saying things like, it's almost like you're the medium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
But the crystal knows what to do. It's going to go, it's going to create the sound, and the sound is going to have an effect on you. I mean, I am mind blown, and I can see why you're saying things like there's the magic, but there is so much in it. Can you tell me a little bit more? Like, I know you were saying that there's lots of different things that it can help with, but I was having a little rummage around on your website, and I know that two things that you picked out, there was support for sleep, support for the nervous system. Can you give us a little bit, are there any other things it can help with? How does it help with these things?
So we are mostly, as you know, operating in our sympathetic nervous system day to day, which is associated with fight or flight, which is quite a scary kind of term, isn't it? But that's just where we are. We're in our busy thinking brains. That's the way society is geared. We're spending our days rushing about, ticking off to-do lists, rarely taking time just to stop and even take a conscious breath, because we don't make a time for it, even though this is where all the healing, all the magic can actually happen when we just slow down. So our brain waves, when we're in the sympathetic nervous system, are up in the beta range, which is where the frequency of the sound waves are going a lot faster. And we're up in our heads, we're not really in our bodies. So what sound healing can do when you lie down and you start to relax, and it can take a little while. Generally speaking, it's said that around after about 7 minutes, give or take, this is when your body really starts to relax and make that shift out of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is where, adrenaline and cortisol, the stress hormones, are being, released to keep us going through our day. So that all starts to slow down, and we slowly start to drop into the parasympathetic nervous system, which, as you know, is all about rest and digest. And this is really where the body can heal. There's this feeling of like letting go of the mind, which is where the magic can happen. You just can't heal or access the things that everyone is looking for outside of them when we're up here in our heads. Like, it's all about dropping into that deeper state of awareness. And yes, there is a place there, of course there's a place for being in the sympathetic, like we need that, of course,
but it's just the scales, aren't they, that tips?
That's it. It's just like
totally
we're like
agree.
This at the minute, we're in the even when we're sleeping, we're oh. So what sound healing does is it helps to calm and slow everything down so that we're dropping into the parasympathetic. And what happens, so many different things. So obviously all of our systems start to slow down. Our breath, our heart rate starts to drop. In a sciencey way, there is a molecule that's released called nitric oxide. You probably know about it. There are so many benefits to nitric oxide.
Insane.
It's insane. Like things I never pronounce it, vasodilator. So it opens the blood vessels so that more oxygen can be dispersed to all of the cells, which can only be a good thing, right? It's great for immunity, it's great for libido, metabolism, all sorts of things. It's just an incredible molecule to have moving through your body. So sound healing, when we're in this parasympathetic nervous state, it's released, and all of these beautiful benefits can then happen. Also, the love hormone, oxytocin, is released. And this is the same hormone that's released when you need to give birth, because it's all about relaxing and being in that, basically in a love bubble. It puts you in a love bubble. So that's released when you're in that state as well. Also serotonin, which is a happy hormone, is released. If we're going a little bit more esoteric, the pineal gland is activated, which is our third eye. I mean, pineal gland science, third eye, intuition. And it helps us to, we move out of the beta waves and into so we're dropping from beta to alpha. Well, alpha is when we're sort of just about to go into that really relaxed state. So sort of just before you fall asleep, or maybe you're looking at a sunrise, when the brain waves start to really slow down. And then it's said after every sort of 7 minutes, you drop a little bit deeper. So after the alpha comes the theta, and for me this is where it's all about, the theta brainwave state. So they're obviously getting slower, and it's just intuitive, isn't it? The slower the brainwaves are going, the more relaxed everything is on every single level. So in this theta space, this is where you are in between awake and asleep. So you're not completely asleep, which is the delta, where you're in that deep sleep, which is still beautiful. But I'd say it's kind of like yoga nidra. They never want you to fall asleep, do they? Because it's almost like that theta space for me, it's this space of infinite potential. It's where we can access intuition, where we can access creativity, where we can kind of see what's blocking us and what needs to shift.
It's a very healing space, isn't it?
It's a really healing space.
And it's hard to access because it's either one side or the other.
Yeah, exactly. And we all have had that experience when we are in between awake and asleep, and then you get this I don't know, like an idea come to you, or like a feeling, like you tune into someone, or you get a message or something. I've had it multiple times. And I've had so many instances where people have come to me. Recently, someone came to me at the end. She'd been really blocked on writing a book. And she said, I've just been like thinking. That's the problem. You've been thinking about it, girl. And she said like the first chapter wrote itself when she was in this space, And something else I'll say as well, which I really want to mention, because this really excited me when I found out about it, is much of our structure as human beings is crystalline in nature. I love this so much. So
what do you mean by that? Tell me more.
We've got lots of crystals in our body. So we've got crystals in our pineal gland.
And in our middle ear.
Our ears, our teeth, enamel, our DNA structure. Lots of our structure is crystalline. So there's this kind of natural affinity already between the bowls and us as crystalline. Yeah. So my theory is we are all crystal bowls, but with lots of trauma and stress and shits going on.
And maybe we haven't accessed because maybe all of those crystals are resonating and helping us balance constantly.
Yes.
But because of everything you've mentioned, they can't do the resonance in the way that they would. That is fascinating.
So they're kind of like bringing us back home to our true nature, like this crystal clearness that is our true nature. But we're just clouded by, you know, being up here in the head all the time and, you know, limiting beliefs and, oh God, there's just so many benefits. I could go on forever and ever and ever, but... And then, in terms of sleep, after a while, they will entrain our brainwaves to the delta realms, and you'll just fall asleep. And another point about that is sound healing is not really music, because music has, you know, the beat. So there's always this sort of predictability. Your brain's always holding on, like I can predict when the chorus is coming, when the next verse is. Sound healing,
and that's again
is really
so thinky,
fluid.
isn't it?
Thinky, and it's beautiful, and it can put you in a lovely state. But sound healing is, it's unpredictable, it's fluid. You're not quite sure. So there's this ability to kind of let go and drop into and surrender into the experience, which helps you to sleep as well. So
actually listening to you talk, it's reminded me, one of the things on the neuro that I've been teaching is that if you touch yourself, it's great for the brain. The brain's like, oh yeah, stimulation, sensory stimulation. But if someone else does it, because of the unpredictability, the plasticity is far greater because of that inability to predict. And so listening to you speak, I'm like, oh, it's like the sensory homunculus when someone else touches you. So that's so fascinating because the brain loves that. It's the novelty that it's just after in a big way.
Yeah, so I hope that answers all the questions.
Absolutely. Listen, I don't want to put you on the spot. One popped into my head, which I know it's no worries if this is something that's beyond your realm at this stage. But one of the things that so many people write to me with, and it's something I've struggled with as well, is tinnitus in my right ear. And when I was listening to you speak, I was thinking, I wonder if being in the sound environment could potentially have some kind of impact on like, for example, I know that I can improve my vision by practicing my eye drills, by giving my eyes challenge. It can actually improve how well I see. Is there anything like that? I'm not saying there's scientific evidence that you know of, or that's not what I'm getting at, but have you felt anything or learnt anything or seen it in any students or just anything in that realm that you can share?
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to know everything because I don't want to know everything. I love learning and growing. And with tinnitus, it's something that I've looked into because it's a question I get a lot as well. And I still don't have the answer. I've had people that have come with it and it's irritated their tinnitus, especially the higher frequencies. It can almost be sort of triggering and bring it on even more. So, you know, in some cases it doesn't work and it makes it worse. However, I've also had the other end of the spectrum where it's actually, if you play the kind of lower frequencies, the more grounding, like in the body kind of frequencies, it's worked really well and it's helped people to just relax and drop a little bit deeper and let it go on a real... I'm just going to go to the woo-woo just for a minute. There are some theories that tinnitus is linked with like receiving, you know, messages from other worlds as well, and there's some kind of resistance there of your kind of if it's getting louder, it can be a message of some sort. I mean, who knows? So I'm still unclear. I really do believe in the power of sound to help heal people that are ready for it, that are open to it. I think there's a healing frequency for everyone. I really do believe that because, you know, that we're so similar to the bowls in so many ways. I feel like how can at least one bowl or one frequency not help, you know, every single person? But, you know, sometimes people are just not ready to receive it as well. It could be a resistance thing. It could be like, oh, this is triggering, and then it's a thought that you have in your head and that you cling to that thought. You're like, this is bad, and then it makes it worse. So it's quite nuanced. And I don't have the answer, but I can only share from my experience.
It's been super useful to hear you share that. I guess listening to you talk as well, I'm curious to know, have you got any weird and wonderful stories of someone coming to you with something that was really difficult for them and potentially they had no solution and you were like, I got you. And then some kind of amazing transformation took place?
I've had so many, luckily, so many beautiful stories. The most powerful one for me has been my own example. If I can share my own story,
of course,
I'll tell a couple of other ones. So, on a physical sense, I had someone who had chronic back pain for a long time, and through the crystal bowls was able to get rid of it. Basically, she came to me and shared that's on a physical level. That was really helpful for her. I had someone recently who went to a sound healing and it cured her fear of falling asleep. So she had insomnia and like a fear of falling asleep, and she had the fear come up to the surface and present itself to her so that she was able to shift it and not have it anymore. Another beautiful one, which it sounds a bit dark, but it was so beautiful and healing for her. She shared that she had a childhood memory come up of being abused, and she said, but please don't worry, because it was the last piece of the puzzle that I've been missing, and it's been blocking me and making me ill in so many parts of my life, and having this come up in the sound healing has meant that I can process it and move on, which was absolutely incredible. And yeah, a story that I share is of my own, and well, what I thought was infertility, actually. So I was in a very toxic relationship, the first, from 15 to 21, very emotionally abusive. And further down the line, Adam and I started trying, my now husband started trying for a baby, and got pregnant pretty quickly, actually, in the grand scheme of things. It took us about 3 months, I think. But then sadly had a miscarriage after a few weeks, which was obviously really devastating at the time. And, really thankful for yoga and sound healing to help me, have that trust that everything's happening the way it's meant to. I'm just going to, keep going and keep trusting in the journey. So that was hard. We tried again, 6 months later, got pregnant. Sadly, the same thing happened again. So I thought I had another miscarriage, but actually it turned out I was actually teaching my first yoga class back in 2020 actually, it might have been. And I just like doubled over in pain. This was sort of a month after the miscarriage had happened. And I thought, God, am I pregnant again? Like, I felt really dizzy and sick, and I had to finish the yoga class. I ran into my bedroom and Adam heard me. And, I'm not a researcher, but for some reason I'd been researching miscarriage, and I was reading about how if you get shooting pains up your left shoulder, it's actually linked to an ectopic pregnancy, which is when the fetus can't survive. It goes into the fallopian tube rather than the uterus, and obviously can't survive there. So I knew that was what was happening to me, and I knew that it could also be fatal if it ruptures, which is what was happening. So we had to call the ambulance. I ended up in A&E, and I lost nearly 2 litres of blood. But it's weird, I had this real feeling in the ambulance that this was like, I was at the start of this journey. And I was sort of sat with it afterwards. I was just in my bed at home, so I had to be in bed for a couple of weeks after that. And I was just thinking, why, because I'm such a, why has this happened? Like, what's the deeper meaning in all of this? And I was thinking, this is my body letting me know that something's wrong. And I've been doing this work for a long time now. Like, your body doesn't just do things like this for no reason. Like, I refuse to believe that miscarriage is bad luck, which is what I was told in hospital. Oh, we don't know why it happens. It's just bad luck. I was like, that's not true. I just don't believe it. And what I came to realise is that, I remembered someone saying to me once that emotional abuse sits on your womb, around your sacral chakra, and it can block the flow of energy here, and it can, lower the frequency of what wants to be, a healthy womb with an optimal healthy frequency. So that came into my head. I was like, oh my God, like I totally bypassed all of the healing around that relationship. I just was all love and light about it. And I was like, do you know what? Let's just move on. I'm free now. I'm just going to let it go. And I never really, understood that it was a process that I needed to go through to, do the healing, to let go of what had happened, to forgive, to, him, myself, so much stuff. So I realised that I was on this kind of womb healing journey, and it went on for a good year, and I had to go right back and do some healing work. And I thought, this is my chance to really use, the bowls and to lift the frequency of my womb. I saw a healer, and she could see what was going on in my field, and she said, your womb is sad at the moment. It's not vibrating at the frequency that your baby wants to come in at, because for a baby to come in, it has to feel safe and held, like in a nice happy space, and it wasn't happy because it was full of trauma. So I did a lot of work, and I used the bowls, and I had them in my womb, and I was playing them, and I was singing, and had the intention there, and lo and behold, it took a year, but I felt that I was really on this journey. And using, other things as well. I'm never going to say that it's only sound healing that can cure you, because, obviously there's a part for other things, place for other things too. But I know in my heart it played a big, big role. And then, luckily conceived my lovely little sonny, who's now nearly 2. And we're over halfway through the next pregnancy as well. And I use sound the second time round as well. So it's, using energy and intention and sound is such a powerful way to bring physical parts of us that are, and our body will tell us when things are out of alignment. I really believe that if you've got something physical going on, often it's a clue. It's like, what's happening energetically, emotionally here? What have I not looked at? And it can all be shifted and moved through energy, because everything's energy. It can all be transformed into something else. So
Amazing. A huge congratulations, first of all.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your intimate story. I think it's so important for people to hear this, because it does offer so much hope. And I guess a big question that I wanted to check in with you as well, Holly, is because one of the huge goals for us and running this podcast is to make it give people practical tools, like little steps, like if you try these 3 things, it's going to help. And I was wondering, maybe there's a resource that you can drive us to, because not everyone has a sound healer in their community. What would you recommend? What kind of tips can you give people? Anything to share?
So, do you know what? For me, it all starts with, and I know this might sound obvious, but it's also quite powerful and important. It all starts with intention, because it might just be this sort of floaty thing. Oh, I might give sound healing a go, but it's. I think first of all, think. Are you ready to go on a healing journey? Like, do you want this? What is it that you want it for? Is it to relax? Is it to heal? Have you got something going on? Is it because you want to change your life? Like, what's the why behind this? And are you ready? Are you committed to it? Say it out loud. It all starts with that seed for me. And when you have that like commitment in your heart, I'm ready to do this now, I feel like that sort of opens this little internal doorway, and then things start flying into your life, like whether it's a teacher or a sound healer or a crystal bowl, or you get pointed in the right direction when you start with that seed of intention, I believe. So start there. If you don't have access to, a sound healer, because it is still relative, it's an ancient form of medicine, but it's, it's still relatively new now in this day and age, but it's making a big comeback in a beautiful way. So get yourself to a real life sound healing if you can, but if that's not an option, online is still a beautiful place to start. Insight Timer is a really great resource actually for, it's free, and there's loads of meditation, sound healings, lots of different beautiful healing modalities that you can use on there. It's a lovely place to start. You will find that you'll be drawn to the instrument that you're drawn to. So for me, it's crystal bowls. Other people like gong, or maybe the Tibetan bowls. So don't feel like you have to just stick with one thing. I would say, just like yoga, try a few different teachers and try a few different instruments and see what speaks to your soul. And then and then just carve out that time. I'd say, like, put a time slot in your diary each week. This is when I'm going to have time just for me, like this half an hour, whether it's before bed or it's the middle of the day when you're going to be on your own. Just commit to that weekly time slot, or however many times you want to put it into your week, daily if you can. That would be amazing, to give yourself that time and space to heal, to relax, whatever it is that you have the intention around. I think, is that enough?
That is perfect. Yeah, sometimes the shorter the list, the more likely people are to action things. And I think it's so funny. What keeps coming up for me again and again, and I keep sharing this with people because I think it's so profound, is that if there is something to deal with, whether that be an issue or a trauma or a struggle, the only way to deal with it is by going towards it. You can't avoid it. You can't go above it. You can't pretend it's not there and hope it'll go away. No. It'll always rear its ugly head and start to limit your life in some way. And what I quite like about the idea of sound healing is not that I believe it's the only tool. Like, maybe people need therapy, or maybe they need to go and see like someone that can really get them to go into that darkness to help them resolve it. But what I like about the idea of sound healing is it gets you to stop enough to actually appreciate the fact that there is something that needs addressing. And then it also opens the doorway for it not just to be you on the path, but for something greater to step in.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's where it gets really exciting.
I couldn't have put that any better myself, Celeste. You come on the training.
I need to write that down and I'll send it to you.
You're already a sound healer.
Thank you so much for sharing all this. Is there
welcome.
anything else that you are like, do you know what, I just wish people knew this one thing? If there's anything else that comes to mind, I don't want to end the conversation without giving you a chance to just share whatever else might be profound and worthy to mention.
Oh gosh, what wants to come through? I feel like I want to say, trust in your own unique journey. It doesn't look the same for everyone. And yeah, like you said, sound healing, it's such a beautiful healing modality, but it's not the only thing that you can do to help yourself to heal as well. So I'd say just, if you're ready to do the healing work, to change your life, to move past blocks and fears and shift your limiting beliefs that are holding you back and keeping you small. Set the intention, first of all, like, I'm ready for this, I'm ready to change my life. Explore sound healing, explore other modalities of healing, and then go to where your heart is leading you to, and trust in your journey and trust in your path. And you'll end up exactly where you're meant to be. I really, truly believe that.
And then, do you know what? I feel like I should have kind of merged this question into the last one because I think you've already answered it. But if there was like a bumper sticker and you wish that everyone on the planet could read this bumper sticker, or I don't know, a tattoo that we all had to get, what would the phrase be? Maybe you've already said it. You're welcome to repeat anything you've shared.
Everyone has the ability to heal themselves, is what I want to say. Yeah.
Holly, you're a queen. You're a queen.
As are you.
You're a queen. And it is so wonderful watching you navigate life because I feel like you do it in so much style. And it's so good to see all of your dreams coming true. I want even more success and wealth and growth and all the stuff that your heart could ever desire to come towards you. Before we close, can you just tell people where to find you? Because people need to find you now.
Thanks. Well, thanks, Celeste. Thanks, Celeste. So best place is probably Instagram, which is I am Holly Hustler. There's no T in Hustler. My website is Holly. That's so ironic.
That's me and my dyslexia coming in.
It's ironic because I'm so not a hustler as well. That's my hobby is. I am not. So I am Holly Hustler. Website is hollyhustler.com. I've got trainings on there. I've got an album on Spotify called Luminous Shadow. I think Instagram and website is probably the best place to find me. So yeah, thank you.
We'll drop that into the show notes for everyone. Thank you for joining us on Love at First Science, and thank you everybody for listening.
Thank you for having me.